It's another week, another episode of Breaking Down Security. I'm Bryan Brake. Ms. Berlin, Mr. Boettcher, welcome.
Yo.
Hi.
I had a very funny joke just before, but this is like take 2 of our intro. So it was something about, aren't you glad you're not Mark Zuckerberg? But it kind of fell flat.
No, he looks not alive.
Well, you know what? I was watching some of it, and I know some people are probably like, oh my God, I don't listen to this podcast for current events, but I think he was very well prepared by his lawyers.
Yeah.
I think that there was, it's unfortunate that he's 5'7" because he had to have a cushion or something under his buttocks cheeks that, didn't help him look any more manly, which is not good. Maybe it was just a really comfy, squishy chair. And who hasn't had to have a, Greater Los Angeles Yellow Pages under their butt when they're trying to drive cars and stuff.
That's why my teachers wanted to hold me back in kindergarten.
Is too short?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's not
because
nice.
I would sit up on my knees at the lunch table.
So that you could just,
They said I was too immature.
Please.
Like, no, she's short.
It's kindergarten. What are you like supposed to be like?
And it wasn't like kindergarten like they have it now. Like you're actually learning stuff. Our kindergarten, you took naps and played in the pretend kitchen.
We had all day kindergarten, so yeah, we had nap time too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I miss nap times.
I still have nap time.
Oh wow, that must be nice. Must be nice. Little siesta. Got a little siesta going on.
I got a letter in the mail from some lawyers saying that there's a class action lawsuit against Facebook because I bought some of their IPO.
Shut up.
Oh.
Yeah, long time ago. And I don't even remember it because I sold it.
Oh, I was
but yeah, I remember something weird happening. Like I bought at a certain price. Like let's say I bought $100 and I thought I was going to get 3 shares or 5 shares, whatever it was.
Mm-hmm.
And I ended up getting far less than I thought because the price had gone way up.
Yeah.
By the time the transaction actually got through.
Yeah.
I was like, man, that sucks.
Well, because you're not buying
and I think this has something to do with it.
You're not buying in volume. All IPOs have that issue. I mean, if you're only buying like small amounts, you're not at the front of the queue, for instance. So if you were buy 10,000 shares of Facebook, you get like in the premium queue and that gets processed immediately. So, if the stock opened at 52 and you buy it with 10,000 shares, then, when it goes to 80, you're done. Now, if I buy 5 shares, I won't get it until it hits 85.
That was back then. Now you can do live trading.
I do live trading, but still, I mean, because of the volume that I do, which isn't a lot, you're not priority.
Oh.
And you may not.
So I buy 10,000 shares, I'm priority, but then I can start selling at a higher price within seconds.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So that may be what the lawsuit's about. I'm not sure. I didn't read the whole thing. It's like a big packet.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't care.
I just know currently I'm kind of regretting shorting Facebook.
Oh, why is the stock down?
From what I bought it at, yeah, but not much. They're my worst performing one. It's like negative 2% or something.
Right. Actually, according to intraday, it went up.
It went up today.
Yeah, it went up from 161 up to 165, then closed around 165. So after hours, it's still up. So his testimony only served to make his price go up. It opened at 158-ish and closed at 165. So there's no, I don't know, how do I put this? So there's no bad news in business anymore. We got breached. Oh, slight dip, goes all the way up.
This one's lasted longer than the other breaches, though.
Right.
As far as press goes.
Right. And
the
actually,
rest of them are like 3-4 days, a week or 2.
Yeah, that's true. And, they haven't rebounded since March 16th, they were at 185. So, I mean, they did go down after this whole thing with Cambridge Analytica. So, it's going to take a little while for it to rebound. But, yeah, definitely buy it. It's down $20 from its 52-week highs. So, anyway, we are a non,
Don't take our financial advice. This isn't not a financial podcast.
Breaking Down Security is not a financial
advice, actually.
The theories expressed for financial advice, unless you want to, short something, let us know ahead of time when you do that.
I short anybody that's had a breach.
Right.
That's your strategy. It's worked out.
I mean, so far I'm trading at like 42% gain. So
nice. Yeah, I only buy things with dividends and then just reinvest the dividends. So like Microsoft, Qualcomm, Walmart. I have Starbucks as well. Starbucks and Walmart are actually my best performing stocks. So
Tesla's mine.
Oh, God damn it! Don't talk to me with.
Bryan is like, well, I climbed Mount Everest. And Amanda, you're like, well, I climbed Mount Everest without oxygen. So,
Yeah, no, I had Tesla when it first came out and it was $17 a share.
Dude.
I had like $25. I had 25 shares of that stuff because at the time, and I sold it for LinkedIn. And then I sold LinkedIn for Twitter, and now I'm screwed.
Twitter's like $30 a share.
I know, and I bought it when it was 52. Anyway, all right, so we're done talking about stocks. It just pisses me off in no end because I can't.
We're done.
I know we're out. No,
that's it. That's all the podcast.
That's
Sorry, we can't handle this anymore.
Worst podcast ever. So. This is a topic I wanted to talk about for a while. I know this is something that it's very active in our Slack channel. Our SIEM and logging channel is very active. I mean, we've got everybody on there. Initially it goes in phases. You get somebody who's joining, they're like, "Hey, does somebody use X?" And then we get into a big long discussion about why you shouldn't use that one. And you overbought or something, but SIEM logging, SIEM tuning, what logs should be collected, what logs should be analyzed is always a hot topic in our Slack channel. It's always usually the one that gets the most discussion. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. Also, to segue. If you wanted to listen to the Windows side of it, I know Mr. Goff and Mr. Boettcher talked about some SIEM tuning and SIEM logging and stuff as well. But for Windows specifically, on the BDIR podcast, Breaking Down Incident Response podcast. So that's just something to think about. And if you want to listen to, the links in the show notes. So Ms. Berlin wrote a fantastic white paper on that called Building a Mature SIEM. So maybe you tell us why you wrote this white paper. It's 17 pages.
It is not quite done yet.
Oh, okay. Are you going to do a talk on it eventually?
I hadn't planned on it.
The operative word is yes.
I guess.
Yes.
Wouldn't it be like building a baby SIEM and then it matures on its own?
Oh.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of. You have to prioritize that stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I have 2 other talks I have to write first, so I have to worry about those first before I do another one.
Okay. So, all right. So when you're building a baby SIEM, trying to get it to a mature SIEM, what is the hardest thing to actually get started with your SIEM? I have an idea, but I'm going to let the SIEM masters, put it out there.
Coming from like an MSSP side, the hardest thing has been someone deciding what logs they think are the most important to start with.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people just want to start with everything and just throw all the logs and then start tuning it.
Right.
Which is a beast of a project to like overcome that could take months, right? To go through every type of log that you have coming into it. Or just trying to pin down what exactly you want. Like, do you want to start with endpoint logs? Like if you have a desktop like endpoint solution, or do you want to start with your border firewalls? Or do you want to do, do you do a lot of application logging? Like if you have a lot of web app stuff, that's the hardest thing I think to pin down.
Okay. How about you, Mr. Boettcher?
Well, the hardest is if the security team or you aren't in charge of it, not going over your license limit or trying to get things into it that you think are relevant and convincing them that they need to be in it.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So there's like the logging IT guy who's in charge of it, and he's protecting it with everything he's got. Oh, and he's putting the big shield up saying, no, nobody's putting anything else in here.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So that's the hardest part.
Okay.
And it doesn't have to be monetary or a license limit. It could be capacity as well.
Right.
Right. And so convincing the powers that be that you know what you're doing and then you're not going to break things.
Right. So
yeah, and I mean, if you just like turn on all that, like with capacity, you could just like open up the floodgates and not think about what you want to do, and you could just take it to its knees or fill up all your space or go like way past your licensing limit.
Right. So as somebody who doesn't handle the SIM logs on a regular basis, my thing is kind of from an IT management perspective, goes back even further than the SIM itself. One, what kind of SIM would work for your organization? Because not everybody can afford the ones that rhyme with funk or have the manpower to handle elk stacks or anything like that. And it's another twofold. Once you get your whatever it is you're going to use to collect or aggregate your logs, many of those require you to take every box in your enterprise and point the logs to that, which, like Ms. Berlin said, if you're just pushing everything all of a sudden, you can overload your network with log traffic. But just getting all of your boxes pointed to that one aggregator is a task and a pain in the ass by itself, in my opinion. Or some of them have agents where you have to install
turning
the agent
on the logging. Yeah, like the agent thing.
Right.
Like you either have to have an agent on it or figuring out how to automate a bunch of turning on settings for logging.
Right. And if your IT department or your infrastructure people have enough trouble pushing out patches alone, pushing out yet another piece of software, yet another agent is going to be a pain in the ass. So you have to look at, would an agent work for you guys? Well, no, we can't even push out patches on a semi-regular basis because of X. So yeah, maybe an agent-based SIM solution is not going to work for you. Maybe something that could be automated where you're, just pointing your syslogs to a centralized server, like an elk stack or something, would make more sense. But I think when you're building a mature SIM or you're building your SIM out, you need to figure out what will work for your organization, because not everything is right. You can't just drop anything in.
On the left picture, you have elk, which takes a lot of manpower.
Right.
It's hard to get set up and to keep running, and to actually make it effective for your organization.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to hire the right people. You have to be the right person for that.
Right.
Okay? And as a company, management has to decide, okay, if we have this guy, what happens if he leaves? Can we replace him?
Right.
On the other hand, you have funk, which costs an arm and a leg for a company. It does a lot of good things. It's an enterprise type supported tool, and it's a lot easier to stand up and get working efficiently.
Yeah.
And there are a lot more people who know how to use it.
Okay. So a lot more people know how to use it, but you're going to have to hire those people, aren't you? Which is going to cost you additional monies on the back end.
Or outsource. Like either way.
Oh, okay. I can see that. But would it be cheaper to outsource it versus hiring a dedicated Funk? Oh, man, I just ruined that, didn't I?
Shit.
So I don't know if there's a dedicated person that you need.
Yeah. Well, I know that some of those folks can be quite pricey. So
I don't know. I don't know that.
And have 20% of his time dedicated to it.
Right.
Have you ever seen like a successful SIM implementation with somebody only putting 20% of one person's time at it?
Yeah, I don't think that. Yeah.
Yeah, they hired a consultant to come in and help.
At least get it set up and running.
Yeah.
Right.
Get it set up.
Yeah.
Right. So does it matter?
I did the McAfee one for a little bit, and it was, buddy. The consultant we had come set it up really didn't know what he was doing either.
Wow. So is it necessary to only run your SIEM on Linux-based systems? Can you run a SIEM on a Windows box? Is that a thing? Or are they all Linux-centric? And why?
I've never heard of one being run on a Windows box.
They must have.
I think you can.
So, I mean, what's the downside to doing that? I mean, with Server 2016 has a core version, which is like fairly minimal. Is it a performance issue? Is it a file system issue? I mean, you can use things like, ZFS versus, NTFS or, whatever.
No, nobody's doing it. I guess that's probably one downside. Oh. Community support.
Right.
We can Google that. I don't know.
Do you think people laugh when they go, I have my Splunk running on a Windows box? Ha ha ha. You suck. Yeah.
Yeah. I've never seen anything like that on a Windows box.
Wow. Okay.
No, you know what? I have, but it's been like our MSSP went in, moved it from the Windows box to our custom build.
So y'all just took a look at it, you shook your heads. Can't. Yeah. No, okay, that's why you call this.
And basically at that point it was just a rebuild from scratch.
Right. Okay. So it says, why use a SIEM? There's many reasons why you would suggest using a SIEM. Malware control. Really? Yeah. How so?
Like incident response related.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So your incident
all
response.
Your IDS logs and your endpoint logs, and you can correlate all of that together.
Okay. Boundary defenses, consolidate monitoring of access, activity, access controls. That's good. So let me ask you a question. So you've got malware control and you're doing it for incident response. Does it make sense to have other SIEMs? So, this is going to be handling logs for your, endpoint hosts. This is going to be a SIEM that's going to be handling all your network stuff, your infrastructure. Would it make sense to have smaller ones that aggregate? Because when you aggregate, you're just going to take all the logs and put it into an aggregator, right? Would it be smarter to have a bunch of smaller SIEMs that you can more easily manage?
No, just because the more data you have coming in, you could put them in separate buckets to do better correlation across types of logs.
Okay.
So if Bob got his computer compromised, you may want to see what websites he visited.
Right.
And you can't do that if they're separated.
Well, wouldn't log aggregators, take all those various buckets and put them together to show you like a fancy dashboard? Isn't that what it's all about? Is the fancy dashboard?
Usually the dashboards are for like the C levels, as far as I've seen.
Oh, okay.
Like I just use searches and things.
Okay. Well, I'm sorry.
I mean, I create dashboard. I seriously, I've been this entire last week and a half, I've been doing nothing but create dashboards, but those are for me.
Yeah.
Just because we didn't have the ones that I wanted across all of our customers. So.
Okay. Let me ask about that before we get on to the tuning stuff. The dashboard thing. Why are the dashboards so important? Do people actually use them? And because I've got logs from my vulnerability scanner, and I've got people who say, "Yeah, I want fancy dashboards," but I don't know what to give them. I mean, it's akin to like asking for metrics. I don't know what necessarily the metrics you want to see, but it's just like, hey, give me some metrics. I'm like, I don't know what you want. I don't know what's interesting to you.
So I've seen people want metrics just for the purpose of having metrics, and they're never going to do anything with them.
Oh, lovely.
Which is stupid. I think if you're gonna get a metric or a dashboard, you're gonna want you create that for a goal. Either you're watching it trend downward as far as number of critical high, as far as vulnerabilities go.
Right.
Critical high, medium. You're watching that trend go downward as like a simple metric, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or you're watching numbers of systems scanned go up.
Right.
right? But those are metrics that you're going to do something with. There's some people that have metrics just because they look pretty and like they can go to their board meeting and show all these fancy metrics, but they might not necessarily. Yeah, they might not necessarily do anything with them. It's just to
our
show
metrics are going up.
Yeah, it's just to show the value of what they're paying for.
Right. Okay. So this decade's dashboards is last decade's pivot tables is what you're saying.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, but like the dashboards that I'm creating are for trends mostly, and to kind of point out some misconfigurations and things that some people should be doing better.
Yeah.
Like one in particular is like geo-blocking.
Right.
Like you can show how much traffic is inbound based on all countries other than the United States. You're like, oh, well, do you do any business in North Korea? Because that's your top hitter.
Oh my. That's probably not good.
Yeah.
It's probably not good.
Yeah. And you can break that out into like before they implemented geo-blocking, where everything shows like red being allowed inbound, right? And then you can do after geo-blocking, where it's like these 5 things were allowed in and everything else was blocked.
Yeah. Okay. So this is what I was talking about. So with smaller SIMs is what I was talking about. So you have a bunch of smaller SIMs and it makes the data faster to get through. If you have one large SIM, doesn't that make it longer and harder to do, reporting and such? Or does it really matter? Am I missing the whole point of having a SIM in this case?
I don't know that I've seen it take too awful long to like run queries and stuff. I guess if you have so like if you're Apple or Facebook or whoever running a SIM and gathering all of that data, maybe that would probably be like, maybe they would section it out into like, Apple has like their iOS SIM, right? Their iOS team or whatever. And then, section that kind of stuff off. Yeah. I've worked with some really big companies, but not any that big, I guess, that they've had to separate them out like that.
Okay.
And maybe that's why Linux is used, just performance based.
Right. Okay. So,
I haven't seen one that was all separated, even for really big companies. They just add nodes to it and it works well together as one big unit. It's kind of like back when we were at the place, they built this huge Oracle cluster.
Yeah, right? It was definitely a cluster.
It just took everything, right? All of our products. Right. It was a monster.
But all I remember from that database was when we had a DBA who would accidentally run a query against 100 million lines, and it would like bring it to its knees. That doesn't happen with fancy ass cluster nodey things that we're using now.
I've seen it like if you schedule a whole bunch. So with like I've only ever worked with 3 SIMs: Splunk, McAfee, and Elk.
Right. So
some people would say isn't a SIM. It's just a log aggregator.
So when you're making queries of stuff, it still would make sense to limit the range of dates or something. You don't want to go from beginning of time to do something because it could take you a long time.
Oh yeah, definitely. Okay. Like and with Splunk you can background jobs.
Right.
So like you're not like eating up more resources than you need to. And then I didn't do any of the engineering like behind the scenes on the command line. All the stuff that I did was on the security side. Okay. So I know that there were queries and settings and stuff that they would check out that were like, oh, this job is a daily job and it's taking a day and a half.
Right.
So it's never actually completing that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of, I guess, configuration changes and stuff that you can make to make it run better.
Okay. All right. So, Mr. Boettcher, I know you are a little biased about Windows logging because you make a program that does that, but not every operating system has the same type of logging format. So how do you take Linux logs, for instance, stuff in, utemp and all those directories, and stuff from, say, a Windows box and some from an OS X box, and make useful information out of that?
Well, eventually it gets into text format. They all do, to get into the SIEM, so that you can run searches against it, right? You really can't run string type searches against binary data. So that gets converted into string. And I think on Linux, it's mostly strings anyway, text files. So that has to be parsed in some way. And so on the SIEM, you will parse particular logs and say, well, I want this field to be called the user ID. I want this field to be called the date.
Right.
I want this field to be called the the alert value, or whatever it is you're logging. So you divide it that way, and you tell your SIEM that these things are called this. So you separate it into those buckets, right, within a particular index or what have you. Okay. Is that about right, Amanda?
Yeah.
So, I mean, does the Splunks and the Elks out there, do they have, I don't know, like filters or what, does it know that this is a particular type of file, so this is the particular type of format that this log file is going to be in? So, you got to tell it. You got to tell it. You have to make them, or like definition files or something? Some of them are predefined. You can just say, oh, this is a Cisco ASA log. So you check the box, Cisco ASA. Right. So anything that comes from this or is designated this, all that's transformation is already built. Okay. So you can take what's there, or you can make your own and pray. You got it. Okay.
Yeah. And there's a lot of like proprietary software out there that logs into whatever directory that it wants to log into. Right. And I've had a lot of people want to pull that kind of stuff in to run reports on it or whatever, and it's a nightmare. Well, like an application like Joe Schmo out there, like creates some weird application that the customer needs, and it logs to a 5-line log file that's separated by plus signs. That's it's not comma delimited. It's like with the dash or something like that, and it's just like not a standard logging file that you can actually use.
So it makes you want to send a drone strike to the developer's house. Yes. So yeah. Okay.
One that I really remember is it was like a add-on for Active Directory that the help desk people used to change usernames and passwords. Instead of doing like Active Directory delegation, they just bought this plugin that had like a domain admin account on the back end that would allow them to do like a couple things. Right. That log file was like that. It was very, very poorly formatted, and then it also logged the usernames and passwords they were changing.
Ouch. Okay. All right. Wow. Yeah, that's not good. You definitely don't want to log those in clear text. You don't want to be like T-Mobile Austria was this week. So they fixed that, though. They did send out a tweet. Yeah, they said we're going to hash and salt our passwords properly. Customer operators won't have access to. Oh, man. God, there's so much Schadenfreude going on there that week. Well, I have a link in the show notes to that tweet thread. Oh, my God, it was on fire. Actually, it was kind of funny because I had the Iraqi public minister. He was like, "Oh, everything is fine. We do it to protect the customers." Yeah, I was trolling pretty badly on that, and I apologize to the folks at T-Mobile Austria. So, who benefits the most from having logs? Because is it the IT people? Is it the incident response people? Is it managers and C-level folks? I mean, who gets the most benefit out of having a centralized log system?
I'd say incident response.
I'd say IT. They're always troubleshooting issues with customers, with their own crap, with employees. If they have a central log system, everything's in there and it's all nice and beautiful, they can go in there and there's your problem.
Right.
Or I'm not seeing that in here, et cetera, et cetera.
Well, I could see the IT part. I could see infrastructure if they're trying to figure out why networks are slowing down. I could definitely see the reasons for IR, but would compliance fit anywhere in that? Does compliance benefit from having these kinds of from having these kinds of logs in any way?
Oh yeah,
because I'm trying to figure out. Okay, so I have a company and I don't have an IR team. I have an MSSP or something that's, making sure we're not getting hacked and doing a poor job at it. And, the only reason for us to have it is the MSSP says we're supposed to have it. But the compliance folks, can they make use of the logs? What do they get out of logs? Or what do they, Mr. Boettcher already mentioned the IT folks, but I mean, what other, you have to make the most bang for the buck. So how do you, we're wanting a new SIEM system. We don't have all the money. Let's plead our case to compliance. Why does compliance want a log server or a SIEM?
I mean, it's in the compliance standards.
Is it?
Typically.
Is
yes.
it? Yeah. Okay. No, logs have to be collected, but not necessarily a SIEM, right?
No.
And I'm thinking along the lines of something like PCI.
IDSS, it needs to be a SIEM.
Yeah, I was
specifically.
Say, I think it does.
HIPAA, it doesn't really have to be a SIEM. It's just retaining logs.
Okay.
But with PCI, definitely is. There's a lot.
I thought it just said centralized log server. I mean, but of course, I've not looked at it since like 2.1. So 3 or 3.1 or 3.2 might have.
So I'm not done going through the entire compliance standard yet, but it's on page. It's Appendix A, so page 12 of that document.
Uh-huh.
I have HIPAA and PCI. Well, PCI is not done yet. HIPAA's done, but there's only like 4 sections in HIPAA that talk about logging.
Uh-huh.
PCI is literally like all of 10.2, all of 10.3, half of 10.5 and 10.6, and a little bit of 10.7.
But it says just logging. It doesn't. Is it an addressable thing like how HIPAA does, where it's like, we want you to collect logs. Well, we don't care how you collect logs. We just want the logs collected.
I mean, I guess you could collect them in a different way. It doesn't specifically say SIEM, but it does give a lot of stuff that you have to collect. Sure.
You mean like what kind of fields or whatever you need to be able to collect, like logins and log-offs and such?
Yeah, like 10.3 is, it says user identification, type of event, date and time, success and failure, origination of event, identify or name of affected data, system component or resource.
Okay. So earlier when I said, the disparate type of formats for logs, having some way of collecting those and collating them correctly, and you're collecting Cisco logs, so the IP address is here in this field and whatever. Like Mr. Boettcher said, they already have pre-created filters or definitions for the log types. That would be kind of a selling point for your compliance stuff. It would be easier for you to parse them. It'd be easier for you to understand
and
coverage.
Prove all of it. Yeah, prove that you've actually done it.
Right. Okay.
Because I could see like a PCI auditor or QSA coming in and saying, all right, well, show me your logs for that system, and the fact that you have all of these things logged.
Right.
Sure, you can do that manually, but it's going to suck.
Yeah. Hey, I was thinking, Mr. Boettcher, IT might want them for asset management to know if all the systems in the network are being monitored, right?
Possibly.
You might collect Chef logs. You might collect Puppet, Ansible type logs. We pushed out these patches at X time. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much to.
Topology, scan results.
Yeah, you've got 4 in your white paper. You've got at least 5 pages of different types of logs.
Yeah.
God, dog. Are you going to collect SIEM logs on your own SIEM? Is that? How deep down the rabbit hole does that go?
No, definitely.
Oh my God.
Like queries run if it's if there's any gaps in log data.
Wow.
Yeah, all that kind of stuff.
So yeah, you're talking about authentication systems, DNS, IPS, IDS, as if they don't collect enough logs by themselves. Operating system endpoint solutions. How easy is it to take data from endpoint solutions? A lot of the endpoint solutions have their own processing system, so the endpoints automatically send that back to the respective companies, right?
I know a lot of them will, like SEP does really good logging, so semantic endpoint protection does good logging. Mm-hmm. Carbon Black does really good logging. I guess they didn't do, is it them? I think it's them. Didn't do cloud logging. Like if you had Carbon Black Cloud, like you couldn't get the logs out of it.
Okay. Where do the logs go? Do they go back to...
they go to them, and like you can't pull them into your own SIEM. But I think they just changed that.
Okay. I would imagine they would have some way you could view that stuff in its own, and that would be like another SIEM, or you'd have to use like an API call or something to, make those connections. But operating systems, you've got proxies and firewalls. So the whole idea is to kind of create I don't want to say battlescape or something because that's a military term, but a landscape of what's going on in your environment, right? Something other than IPS, because IPS and IDS only give you so much things, or only give you such things. Firewalls will give you something else. Endpoint security will give you another thing. Operating systems will give you yet another piece. So this is a way of showing what's going on all across your network.
Yeah, and PCI DSS says review the following at least daily. And then they list all security events.
No, come on now.
Do that, okay? Log of all system
I had 3 million today.
Transmissions. Log of all critical system components and log of all servers and system components that perform security functions. For example, firewall, IDS, authentication servers, e-commerce redirection servers. It does say, though, in 10.5.3, promptly backup audit trail files to a centralized log server or, quote, media that is difficult to alter.
Yeah.
So CD-ROMs. You can put it on a CD-ROM.
It does say centralized log server or some other type of media.
Okay.
Like, you could print out the logs.
Great. Easy, hipster. I print out all of my alert logs.
I'm going to go through all of those daily.
I put it on acid-free paper. It's really nice. That way it stays for a long time.
It wasn't Carbon Black. Sorry. It was Malwarebytes.
Okay. So that's a good segue here. So Amanda has 3 million security events a day. So the first 2 million are crap, but it takes you all day to get to 2.95 million, which is actually something that's really bad. Right. So in 8 hours, they've had enough time to go poke around your network until you finally get to that event. So obviously you don't want 3 million events on a daily basis. How do you make it better?
3 million events is fine. That's fairly low for a daily collection of logs. Oh yeah.
Didn't we hear like Neiman Marcus? They were getting several million a day, and they got breached like a mofo. So
that's probably not enough for them.
Well, okay, maybe they have overtuned and missed something. Is there such a thing as overtuning? They just weren't
getting the logs that they needed to get. So they were pulling in, like a handful of firewall logs.
Right. Okay,
maybe they didn't have an IDS.
Oh, yeah, that's true. So I call it overtuning, but you call it they weren't getting the logs that they needed.
They could have totally overtuned it too.
They over-optimized.
Instead of actually really tuning it. So
right. Probably that is very unlikely that they overtuned. I think they got these events.
Thank you.
Okay.
You're right.
It's like saying, we take security. If you have to say we take security very seriously, then you're not taking security very seriously.
Usually when you say that.
So if you, there's red flags all over that. Oh, we got too many, we got millions of events and we just didn't see it. Yeah.
Usually when you say that, you now take security very seriously.
Mm-hmm.
Or in some other
thinking about it.
Like, well, yeah, since everybody's coming down on me and my life is in jeopardy because, everybody hates me now. I do take security very seriously.
And then I look forward to the bump in our stock price. So buy our stock because it's going to go up. Dollar bill, y'all. So so there's an optimal level of tuning. So as we've heard, you either don't collect enough information, you get to the optimized part, then you get over optimized and you start losing stuff. So there's really only like a single point in the graph where you're doing a good job. Everything else is like, oh, it's all crap. So it's like you try to get as close to 100% as possible, but you never get there, right?
Yeah.
So
because your network's always changing too.
It sounds like it's self-defeating.
You have like new logs coming in, or hey, we just acquired this company.
Yeah.
And they don't have any logging or whatever.
Makes it exciting.
So,
yeah,
but
it's fun.
The problem with logging is it's not an 80-20 rule. You can't go 80% and go good enough.
Most people do.
Sometimes you can because, you have the old security onion, right? You have layers of security. So a SIEM is a really important layer, but it's not the only layer.
Right. Okay. So let's say that I have a network and I am too cheap to buy Miss Amanda's company, MSSP, and I want to get the most bang for my buck. What are like the 3 areas that you should definitely log, and what should you look for?
Oh, gosh. You want to go first, Brian, or you want me to?
Oh, geez.
Oh, level of difficulty, you can't mention LogMD.
Oh! All right. Let's see here. I think DNS is super important.
Okay.
Can I put DNS and DHCP in like the same?
No, DHCP.
Shit.
I took that one.
I say damn it. I was going to say DHCP ahead of DNS.
Because DNS is noisy. Really.
It is. It's very noisy.
Because you have all these trackers. You could go to one website and you make 100 DNS requests.
No, I just mean internal DNS. So you can match internal hosts to names.
Okay.
But you could do that with the DHCP. So I guess.
Right. I think
Whatever.
probably DNS gets you more in the long run, because not only is it just getting the hosts on your network, it'll get the stuff that people are making DNS requests to, right?
Yeah, and you can match that with threat lists and crap.
Active Directory.
Mm-hmm.
Active Directory, really?
Logons.
Oh, right.
Yeah, any auths with Active Directory are changes to like groups, additions, removals of domain admin.
It seems like this is going to get very complicated very quickly. Wouldn't it?
You said the top 3.
Yeah, but you're on like 5 now. You already put 5
logged
down.
into the database as an admin. That seems fine.
Yeah, that's legit.
What else would be top? IDS.
IDS. Okay.
Sure.
All right, Boettcher, you're 3. You already have DHCP, so you got 2 more.
And Active Directory.
Active Directory. Okay, it's 2.
Bang for buck. Well, you almost need firewall logs.
See, that's where I was heading. That would have been one of my 3 is firewall, ingress, egress.
Does that count like if the IDS is part of the firewall? Like is that all just one? I know it's 2 different log types. But
you buy one product that does it one thing well. I don't want a firewall IDS DHCP server. What's that?
I think Palo Altos do both fairly well.
This is not the Palo Alto podcast. What are we just tossing out names?
Saying.
Man.
Saying.
Anyway, yeah. No, I get I completely understand with the firewall stuff, and especially if your firewall has, IDS capabilities. I think ingress and egress is probably one of the first things that I would try to shoot for. Because, if you are not looking at what's going in and out of your network, that's usually like ground zero, right? Something is, opening a shell out to, some stand somewhere, or
and I think that's good, especially if you don't have good firewall rules.
Right.
I mean, it'll be really noisy,
Right.
but you'll be able to maybe filter it down a little bit more.
Right.
So like using a SIEM and logs to create your firewall rules are never a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
But it's good to like double check to make sure that you're implementing the right ones.
Right.
Yeah, IDS is a good one because if you're SSHing to somewhere, they may catch that.
Yeah.
Right. Especially if it's got a lot of intelligence behind it.
Right. Exfil.
Right? So this site has been seen in malware campaigns, and Bob went to it. Oh crap! I gotta go see Bob. Right? What the hell's he doing?
Yep. So I think firewall, ingress, egress, I think if you have any kind of web applications, those are probably ones that need to be done, because I'm thinking from a triage point of view. I mean, if somebody defaces your website or your network is set up such that your application, your DMZ is somehow connected to your internal network, a lot of applications on the web can be, looked at ahead of time to go, okay, yeah, cross-site scripting or,
So do you think application or like a WAF?
Well, WAFs would just clean up WAFs would detect some things, but they would also allow you to, scrub your requests, which could be, something that's helpful as well. I could definitely see the use of a WAF, but I mean, like we've talked with other people before, you can get around a WAF fairly easily. Encoding things in base64, for instance, is a very easy way of getting around most any WAF, unless it's smart enough to reconstruct those base64 things. Maybe you're just your Apache logs so that you can look for interesting, web traffic. I could definitely see the use of a WAF. If that's all you have, because that would definitely show you incoming and outgoing, responses, and maybe your proxies as well. If you don't have a WAF, your web proxy.
So those are your two.
Third one. I'm kind of partial to the authentication stuff too, so I would have to probably go with AD. I think that would make sense. Bob, service account Samba is logging into the AD server. Well, that's not, system access this. Well, okay, now that's bad. So,
And I've seen a lot of people try and just tune out all their service accounts.
That's not good.
Which is a bad idea. It's fine to tune out service accounts for specific things that they should be doing.
Right.
Right. Like my cloud backup service account is, you're not going to want to trigger the, data exfil.
Right. Oh,
alert.
Right.
But that service account should still trigger created a domain admin or whatever.
Right. So how would you set that up? Would you just set up a rule that says, okay, if this cloud service account is accessing this IP address externally, then that's fine. If it changes,
because with all of the agile crap that all the cloud providers have, all of the IP addresses are always changing.
Don't they use like load balancers or anything on the front end?
Not a lot of them, I don't think.
None of the good ones. None of the good ones.
The ones that I've seen.
Oh, okay.
You made a point that made me want to talk about this. Oh, because we all mentioned like a lot of different things, right? Depending on what we think is best.
Right.
One thing I like to do is the question that you ask when you go to start implementing a SIEM is, what use cases do you want to build this around? Right? What is your biggest threat? Like with the company that you're thinking of, maybe they have no web presence, and if their website was hacked, they don't care because nobody really uses their site.
Yeah,
that wouldn't be one thing that they would want to log on.
Right.
So you can actually tie different types of logs and different alerting and dashboards, reports, whatever, to the use cases that they want to do.
Right. So question, since you work for an MSSP, when you have companies that have a lot of cloud presence like AWS and how hard is it to get logs from AWS like CloudTrail and those into your SIEM? Or should they, if they're already in the cloud, already have Splunk instances inside of AWS and then everything else kind of goes up to the cloud SIEM?
A lot of those things just have like APIs and ways to get their logs out.
Right. Okay.
Like a lot of them do a really good job.
Yeah. Okay. So that's another log format. Not only do you have to deal with like OS level logs, but now you have to work JSON, JSON or REST type formats or whatever for
XML.
XML, that's it, yeah. Or key value pairs with
those are actually really easy to parse. It's the ones that are not in those formats that are hard.
Right. Actually, I love those because when I use AWS CLI, it's just easy to grep those out, I don't even bother putting them into a SIEM when I'm running the API stuff. I just, grep. I use -A and -B, which gives me plus or minus, line numbers. So sometimes I can just, go plus or minus 5 from what the value that I'm looking for. And then that gives me all the information I need. So saves me not having to put them in a fancy ass SIEM and, necessarily do, proper queries. So, we're at 51 minutes and there's a lot more I think we should talk about. I would love to, add more to this or make it like a multi-part show. So maybe down the line we can add additional bits to this. Maybe not next week, but in the very near future. So,
and I feel like now that we've mentioned this document, I'm going to really need to finish it.
Yeah, because I could definitely see a talk or something out for it. So,
I have an entire graphing and reporting section that is literally just what to include.
What? Yes. Okay.
And in the appendix for the different compliance things, when I got to SOX, I just put YOLO because I can't find anything.
It's probably because you have to pay for the it's like the ISO standards or whatever.
I know.
Yeah. Oh, this is nice. Yeah, this is going to be okay, yeah. So you spelled HIPAA right. Good. I can't take people seriously if they don't spell HIPAA right.
Oh,
so, yeah.
Or to the hospital.
So wait,
right.
That's emblematic of that one guy who said you didn't spell breaking right, so he didn't want to listen to the podcast.
What?
I've had, that's happened before. They were like, "Oh, I don't listen to your podcast because I thought you spelled breaking wrong."
Spell right. Why should I listen to the podcast?
Yeah, I apologize. I've done that before. HIPPA instead of HIPAA.
So annoying.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, we definitely want to have some more discussion on the SIEM stuff because I don't think we went as far as we could have with the tuning. So, we'll definitely go through some scenarios maybe in the future where we can talk about, what we're looking for, the goals we're trying to do. So that will be something we can do at a future date. So, Ms. Berlin, thank you for, lending us your knowledge on this very important topic. How would people, if they wanted to get a hold of your white paper or, give you some feedback on that, YOLO, that they would be able to, how they would get a hold of you and discuss that?
Discussions are always better on Slack. So our podcast Slack channel, which now we have a for good thing for inviting people.
Right.
So,
right. We have a permanent link, but I am still loath to give it out because bots. So.
Oh yeah. Well, you still have to DM us or like
email,
show up at our house or something.
What? No,
or not. Maybe not.
You are anyway. So
nobody ever comes to Ohio, so it doesn't matter.
Everybody lives there. They don't have to come to Ohio. They already live there. So
or Twitter. So at InfoSyster, INFOSYSTIR.
Excellent. All right, Mr. Boettcher, you're more active on Slack in the last 2 weeks than I think I've ever seen you on there. I appreciate you, sir. How would they?
Right?
What?
What's that?
Is that right?
I have seen your biohazard symbol on there more than once this week, so that is bully for you. So
I try. Hit me up on Slack or also Twitter at Boettcher.
Very cool. All right. So the BreakSec podcast, you can find us on Twitter at BreakSec. You can find me on Twitter at Bryan Break, BRYAN, BRAKE. Yeah, like we said, if you want to join the Slack, we've got 1,144 people, probably around 400 active users, which is, a lot of people like to say the big number, and then they don't put that there's a lot of inactive accounts. So,
but we inactive people out.
Yeah, we have a lot of people on there. We just started up, due to popular demand, the home lab channel, because people were like, I want to brag about my home lab and I don't have a good place to put that. So I started the home lab channel. If you want to come in there and talk about helping set that up, Tony, DA667's book was the first link I put in there. I called it The Bible because it is. It's on Amazon. You can get Tony's book, DA667's book. But yeah, bds.podcast @gmail.com, or, you can DM BreakSec on Twitter and we'll get you an invite to that. So, we're on iTunes. I appreciate the feedback on iTunes or Apple Podcasts. If you want to leave feedback, that's great. Thank you to our Patreon people. If you are a supporter on there, that pays for the Slack we use every month, or paying for Zooms that we use to record. We don't actually pay for Slack. I'm sorry, it's still free, which is why we're having issues. I meant it pays for the Zoom that we use to record. It also pays for the Zoom that everybody can use for discussing book clubs and such like that. So we appreciate your supporting the show. So
we have 29 channels.
I know. Well, I mean, not counting the locked ones that,
not counting private channels. Yeah. We have 29.
And we got all kinds of stuff. IoT, mobile, the career advice board is always popular. The book club, container and VM, GRC and privacy is becoming a big deal now with GDPR. So yeah, come on in and have some fun and learn some stuff. Our class with Matt Miller is still going on. We just finished up week 2 of 8. If you can still get in on that if you want to. Email us at bds.podcast and we can get you access to the videos. And it's on Monday nights at 6:30 p.m. Pacific time, so that's like 9:30 Eastern. So if you want to join that, feel free to hook up and we'll get you in there. So it's a lot of fun. People are enjoying the content. It's assembly and reverse engineering, and we're learning all about 32-bit and 64-bit architectures, and we're going to be playing around with Raspberry Pis and ARM in a few weeks. So there's still plenty of time to do that. So Miss Berlin, how was AID before we go real quick? How was AID? AIDE.
Yeah, so AID, for those of you that don't know what it is, it's a very small local conference at Marshall University for their digital forensics program.
Right.
And it was okay. I feel like I know what professors deal with when they teach classes.
Oh, the respect? It's all the respect.
All the respect. No, just every time I speak there, I enjoy it. But there was just like 20 kids that I feel like I put to sleep.
Well,
I'm not sure if it was because I was going too fast or too slow, or
it was probably early in the morning. It was probably early in the morning.
No, it was 11.
Well, that's still early,
I guess.
Yeah.
I had one very enthusiastic young lady come up to me and thank me.
Awesome. Well, that one makes it worth it.
It also makes me feel very old, standing in front of all of those college kids. But
punks.
It was fun.
Punks. Anyway. All right. So, Mr. Boettcher, is there anything you're doing upcoming? Are you going to be at B-Sides or anything?
No, I'll probably go to DEF CON and DerbyCon.
Okay. Are you,
in the fall.
Okay.
I'll be at B-Sides Nash this weekend.
Oh, B-Sides in Asheville. That sounds fun. Okay. Oh, yeah. Mr. Cybuck is going to be there with the review board. So if you have a resume you would like him to look at or do mock interviews, he's doing some of that. Are you two talking? Y'all are giving a talk, right? Or is that at Show Me Con?
Oh, we are, but that's at Show Me Con.
Show Me Con. Okay. All right. Cool. Yeah, Mr. Cybuck and Mr. Scott are our moderators on our Slack channel. They do a really good job. So, but Dave Cybuck, he's doing the resume review at B-Sides Nashville. So it's he's following in the footsteps of Ms. Bat and Ms. Hacks for pancakes and helping people out. So it's awesome. So, all right. Well, I appreciate everybody who's listening, and we got some changes coming up. May be able to talk about them in the next couple of weeks if everything goes as planned. So it's
getting hot in here.
It's a new thing. It's something. It's definitely stepping off a cliff a little bit for me. So hopefully we'll be able to talk about it in the next few weeks. So this is Bryan and Ms. Berlin and Mr. Boettcher for Breaking Down Security. Have a great week. Be nice to one another, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Bye.